Through the years, I've learned the story of many indie game developers, and in most cases, watched their journey from starting a project to releasing it and finding huge success. A short while ago, this gave me the idea to share my story, despite it not being as absurd, great, or rewarding as the story of many others. Over the next few minutes, I'll take you on one heck of a journey that helped me discover game development, begin a huge solo project, and start a relatively successful YouTube channel. This story starts all the way back in 2019. At the time, I was in grade 7, and my life consisted of studying, watching YouTube, and playing video games. At this time, I also happened to be really introverted, which meant that I had basically no social life. During the early summer of that year, my school had been giving continual updates in regards to a new deadly virus that you probably know as COVID-19. As the pandemic continued to worsen, my school eventually went online. Now, this is where the journey really begins. You see, middle school wasn't that difficult, so I had a lot of free time to begin with. But now that school was online, I basically had the entire day to myself. I didn't have to get ready during the morning and could wear pajamas during school. Even during my classes, besides attendance, I didn't really have to pay attention, which meant that the entire day was mine to use. So, for the first few weeks of online school, I spent all this free time playing games and watching YouTube. It was like a dream come true. However, fast forward a bit and I began to have this feeling that I was just wasting so much time that could be used productively. Every day I had around 10 hours to myself that was basically being thrown down the drain. And as much as I loved to have fun, this was too much. So, my 12-year-old self decided to figure out what I could do in all this time. For the majority of my life, school had been the big priority, but considering that it had now taken a natural back seat, I needed to figure out a purpose for all this free time. If I didn't, I was sure to waste thousands of hours over the next few months. My first idea was to use all this free time to make some money. All of us have probably had this stage at some point in our life, but I immediately hit YouTube and began to watch a bunch of videos on how to make money online, or how to make money as a kid. My drive to make money brought me to many interesting places. I began by trying to make money online, and spent a lot of time looking at those survey websites where you can do tasks for a small amount of money, online transcription, and even freelancing, even though I didn't have any notable skills at the time. However, despite looking at all of those interesting online sources of money, I wasted many hours and earned nothing. So I decided the easiest thing was to do physical work. For a short period of time, I mowed lawns and also reffed soccer games, both of which led to around $500 in earnings. Eventually though, things slowed down. School was still online, but my passion for earning money had naturally died down. However, I did get to taste the freedom and happiness you get as a kid when you make money. With little to do, I went back to playing video games, notably Minecraft, which I'd begun to play a lot. The first time I played Minecraft was in grade 7, and I just loved that initial feeling you get when you start to play in your own survival world. I remember making a base, farms, getting netherite armor, exploring the world, and more. In the end, I was left with excitement and adrenaline. To me, Minecraft was more than just a video game. It was another world in which I had full creative control and freedom. Funnily enough, my entire YouTube recommended at the time were just Minecraft survival videos. Now, I didn't really realize it at the time, but all my experiences thus far had solidified 3 ideas in my mind. Firstly, I wanted to make money as a teenager. Whenever I did, it felt like I had so much freedom and choice, even though I rarely spent any of the money I'd earned. Secondly, if I ever found a way to make money, I wanted to be able to do it from home. My introverted nature made jobs like mowing lawns and reffing very uncomfortable. This was the same reason I didn't want to work at a store. During online school, I also realized that I loved staying at home. A lot of my classmates hated online school, but it was totally the opposite for me. Having a job I could do from the comfort of my home was of great interest to me. Finally, if there's anything I wanted to do, I wanted it to be something with endless possibilities, where the only limit was my creativity. I wanted whatever future passion or job I took up to be directed around a central idea of creation. Around this time, I happened to revisit an old thought I had when I was very young. When I was in grade 1, I discovered that making games, websites, and apps was a job I could get paid for, all from the comfort of my home. To explore this idea, I began learning terminal commands, even though that isn't actually programming. I still thought I was so cool when I was able to use commands in terminal to do things like enter directories or rename files. I even set the color scheme to black and green so I could feel like a hacker. At the same time, I started this YouTube channel and posted a bunch of videos about how to use terminal. The channel logo was a Google image of a hacker, and I called myself the coder even though I could barely code at the time. The reason I started this YouTube channel was similar to many other kids of my young age group. I just had this dream that if my channel blew up, I could become rich and famous. Obviously, at the time, I thought I could do this by releasing pretty bad videos, which came with a serving of my high-pitched voice.
We have to open up terminal. So I'm going to open it up right there. And what I always do when I open up terminal is I do pw.
This obviously didn't work, and after a year, I was stuck with 54 subscribers, half of which were friends and family. Over the span of a few months, I posted many more basic tutorials on how to code in JavaScript and HTML. All of these videos are actually still on the channel, but I'd advise you not to watch them. Despite getting an initial wave of excitement, everything eventually died down. The programming language I enjoyed the most was HTML. I loved how I could visually see and interact with the websites I made. A lot of the other coding languages couldn't really give me that same level of visual feedback and interactivity. Around this time, possibly because of my newfound interests, I came across this tutorial series on how to make a video game. At the time, I thought that to make a video game, you'd have to code things from scratch, which was and still is way beyond my league. Whatever the case, I clicked on the video, and to my surprise, I was greeted with a friendly face and a tutorial on how to make a basic game by yourself for free with minimal coding. At that moment, I felt as if the planets had aligned. I'd always had this feeling that making video games would be perfect for me and check all of my boxes. However, I thought it would be too difficult, as I could barely code basic algorithms. However, this single video opened up an entire world for me. So, I immediately downloaded Unity, which was the game engine the tutorial was using, and followed the entirety of the series. In the end, I was left with a basic game and feelings of excitement and happiness. For the next few weeks, I watched hundreds of tutorials and learned the basics of Unity. For the entirety of this time, the only thing I thought about was game development. My entire YouTube history was now filled with the devlogs, and with that, I'd discovered my biggest passion. Fast forward to the present, and I've developed countless small projects, and am currently working on my own sci-fi FPS in Unity. I've managed to grow this channel to a decent size with an awesome community, and have only just started this journey. As awesome as this is, my life as a game developer is very different from what you typically expect, mainly due to my age. The biggest benefit is by far my financial stability. I've seen a lot of indie or solo developers on the internet who solely rely on game dev as a source of income. I completely understand their struggles, but also find myself so much more grateful for the fact that I don't have to worry about the financial success of my ventures. I don't need to make money right now and can rely on my parents while I'm a teenager. However, being a teenage game dev comes with a huge disadvantage. In a normal 7-day week, if we account for school, homework, and sports, I'm left with very little time to actually work on my game. In addition, I'm often tired after I get back home and would rather play games than develop one in my free time. Regardless, just looking back on this entire journey is pretty ironic. My original intentions were to make money, and despite not making any money from game dev, I've actually discovered one of my biggest passions. If you're specifically interested in seeing my journey from creating my first project to the FPS I'm currently developing, you can check out this video. With that said, I'll see you in the next one.